So now that we can get safe access to the entered and selected values, we of course want to make sure that those values are in the end passed back to the grocery list widget, because I actually want to manage my list of grocery items that should be displayed on the screen here. At the moment, I am of course using those dummy grocery items from the dummyitems.dart file, but that's now about to change. Because here in grocerylist.dart, instead of using these dummy items, we now want to manage a variable, or actually a final property, that could be called grocery items. And this should be of type list, to be precise, a list full of grocery items using our grocery item class as a type. And for that, of course, this import here must be added. And initially, this will be an empty list. But of course, it's not going to stay an empty list. Instead, it should change whenever we added a new item. But of course, this new item data is entered on a different screen. So how do we get the data from this screen to this first screen from which we navigate to the new item screen? Well, by using a Flutter approach and feature about which you learned in the navigation section. You can pass data back from screen B to screen A. And you can do this in screen B, so the screen to which you navigated from screen A, by using the navigator class that's built into Flutter of context and calling pop. This pops this screen off the stack of screen and navigates the user back to the previous screen, just as the back button on the device or in the app bar does. But we can now pass some data to pop here, the data that has been entered and validated. And the data that I do want to pass along here is a grocery item. So I'll create a new grocery item here using my grocery item model from the models folder. And here we then must set an ID, name, and so on. Now for the ID, I'll generate a new ID by using the built-in datetime class and then the now constructor function. And then I'll convert this to a string. Technically, this is not a perfect unique ID, but it's good enough for this dummy app, and we'll switch to a better ID later once we add a backend to this application. So for now, it's good enough, and we can continue with the name. Now for that name here, we of course want to assign the entered name, which we extract with help of save, as you learned. For the quantity, it's of course the entered quantity. And for the category, it's the selected category, like this. And this will create a new grocery item and pass it back to the screen from which we're coming, which is this grocery list screen. And there we can get access to the data that's being passed back by using async, and then await and get back the new item like this. That's what you learned in the navigation course section. Push yields a future that holds the data that may be returned by the screen which you pushed onto your stack of screens. And it's a future because, of course, it will take some time until the user is done on this new item screen here. But eventually we'll get back that data, and that data here should be of type grocery item. Push is a generic function where we can add this annotation to tell Dart which kind of data will eventually be yielded. This makes sure that Dart understands that new item here is a grocery item or null. And it may be null because, of course, we can also come back from this screen here by using the device back button or the back button in the app bar. And in those cases, no new grocery item will have been created. That only happens if we clicked this add item button, which triggers the save item method, and we then passed validation and call save. Only in that case will a new grocery item be created and passed back. That's why new item could be null here, and we should check whether it's null. If new item is null, I want to return and do nothing else in this add item method here, because there is nothing left to do if we got no new item. If we do have a new item though, then it should be added to this list here, because now of course we have a new item that should be displayed on the screen. And this can be achieved by using the grocery items list and calling add. And this then allows us to add the new item to the list. Now this should be wrapped in setState here, because of course we want to execute the build method again, because now I want to use grocery items here in my UI. Instead of using grocery items from the dummy items.dart file here, I want to use my underscore grocery items variable or property, which we just created and to which we add a new item eventually. And I want to use that for deriving the length, but then of course also for accessing the individual item by index. So in all these places here, it's underscore grocery items. And we can therefore then also get rid of this dummy items import here, because we're not using this anymore. We could also delete the entire file if we wanted to, like this. So now we're using our locally managed list, and a new item should be added if we submitted the form successfully. Therefore now if I reload this, we can give it a try. We see nothing on the screen initially, and we can go to this screen and, for example, add milk, 1 milk, like this, and indeed we can see it here. And of course, I can also add another item here, like this. Of course, I got a typo here, but it does all work as it should. And with that, we're using this form widget and all the form-related functionalities to add new items to our list. Now for some fine-tuning, I just want to make sure that if we got no items yet, we show some fallback text centered in the middle of the screen. For example, a text where we say, you got no items yet, or anything like this here. And I want to make sure that, of course, once we do have items, we can also get rid of them, so that we can swipe them away and delete them. And definitely take this as a challenge and an exercise for you, and try adding those features on your own before we then add them together in the next lecture.